Government can't fix corruption. They can't fix what's in our hearts. And what happened there was in their hearts. They can't make you feel charitable on April 15th. Why are we trying to feel charitable on tax day? Now, with that being said, we must never allow a good Christian or a good Muslim or a good Jew or anybody else that is a progressive to mix religion with government, ever. Collective salvation is just as bad as releasing prisoners because Jesus wants you to do it, or fat camps because Jesus would want you to do it. Life, your personal action is for Jesus. When it comes to the government, you ask, what would James Madison do? James Madison was not Jesus. If James Madison couldn't do it, then you in government can't either. But you can reach out and ask the people who are trying to be more like Jesus in their own personal life to reach out, outside of the government framework. We are being separated and isolated from each other, each of us in our own little groups. Atheists say he's in a God group. God people will say he's not Christian enough. He's in the wrong sect. He's a Catholic. Jefferson addressed this, quote, "It does me no injury for my neighbor to say that there are 20 gods or no God. It neither picks my pocket nor breaks my leg," end quote. I will tell you this, it is my belief that God exists and He has a role for each and every one of us. We're all here for a reason at this time, Jew and Gentile. I urge you to find your role. The bottom line is that America is at war. Not just the three our troops are fighting, but the war for man's freedom. And our neighbors better wake up. But the last thing we need is another war on allies. I don't want to make war with Mike Huckabee or Andrew Breitbart. I'm already, I think maybe even slightly more friendless than I was back in 7th grade when I was an unathletic geek who aspired to be a magician. Mike Huckabee has the right to say whatever he wants. And I support him and defend him in that. Same with Andrew Breitbart. I have differences with each on some things, but I believe we have more in common than different. But it takes two sides to have a fight, and they are not my enemy. And that's why I wanted to tell you this today. I will not fight those who are not fighting against principles and values. Principles and values the founders espoused. If you're fighting against those, well then, I guess you are my enemy, but they should be the enemy of every single American. Principles, the principles of man's freedom. The American people should know that lines are being drawn by progressives, and as all progressives do, they purge and they purify. It happens every time. It will happen to the Democrats in the extreme way eventually, but it's happening now just like it happened to the Democrats in the first phase. It's happening now to the Republicans. Right now, conservatives fight amongst themselves while the left is still uniting. The AFL CIO President Richard Trumka called the labor community and said, ignore the law, and declared companies who don't use union labor as human rights violators. Watch this.
And then there's 40-some million people that are excluded from the right to bargain. If you're an independent contractor, if you're a home care worker, if you're a taxi cab driver in New York, we're going after them and saying, there's new ways. Just like they didn't wait for the law and the sit-down strike, we're going after them and saying, we're going to represent you. We're going to work with you to represent you. Forget about the law. This is about more than that. So we're looking at new types of organizing.
So are you in it for your own power or for your own money? Because, well, they are, and they are organizing anyone. I will not continue to waste time with infighting. I have news for Mike Huckabee. If he's against Obama and it's a choice between only the two of them, I'm pretty sure I'm going for Huckabee. You know, if it's Breitbart or Katie Couric, I'm going to go for Breitbart. And that's just the way it is. We are entering a new era We are entering an election cycle in 2012, and I will be covering it beginning this fall. But Republicans don't look for handouts or a hand up. As a party, I believe you haven't earned the trust. And you at home, do not allow them to take you for granted. Your vote matters. They need it. They want it, or they wouldn't be spending $1 billion to get it. The Tea Party was useful to the Republicans when they didn't have to run anybody. And the left tried to claim it was all about Obama. But you and I both know it wasn't about Obama. It's about both parties. We said then, when people said, where were you during the Bush years? We said we were just figuring it out and we were just getting started. Many of us were saying it during the Bush years. Big government is bad, but not all government is. That's the difference between the left and you. Donkeys and elephants are useless because most believe exactly what Nancy Pelosi believes, that elections shouldn't matter that much. Really? They do now because we don't share enough principles. Most in Washington share the principles of power and money, and those do not relate to the American people. We've been pitted against each other so much that it's hard to even imagine the areas on which we can unite. But there are many places we can unite. In fact, even the most vitriolic of my TV watchers that hate me, I'll bet you agree with me on many things. Check it out. Aim for power. An example on how much we have been divided came to me last week. There were flash mobs of kindness happening all around the country, individuals and groups alike, just doing random acts of kindness. I received countless emails from people who shared what act of kindness they did, and it was incredible. We've highlighted a few of the stories at glennbeck.com, and I urge you to read them and share them with your friends and neighbors. Make kindness contagious. Well, I talked to Jacqueline Smith. She wrote in. She was somebody who organized something in Park City. She was organizing her local 912 group to help a local charity, which we won't name, because when we did name them last week, the person in charge of the charity, presumably left-leaning, initially turned down the offer of help. And Jacqueline had to plead her case to assure there's no motive here. We just want to help people. We want to show you that we're not hate mongers. We want to help. Where are we really at a point where people are turning down charity over a political viewpoint? That barrier needs to be broken down, and we have to get started right away. So how do we do it? Well, let's see how much we have in common. Do we have enough in common? How much of this do you believe in? I believe, and I will stand with any American, left, middle, or right, that sees what's happening to man's freedom. It is being diminished all around the world. I believe the small business owner is the one that creates 2/3 of all the jobs in the country. And I will stand with the dreamer, the artist, the inventor, the laborer, the farmer, and yes, even the poet. I'll stand with you. If you believe that they are the backbone of any free nation and that all of them need a chance to pursue their own happiness and to do it themselves and suffer the consequences of their mistakes, their folly, or their bad luck, but they must also be able to keep and reap the rewards for their toil without fear of taxation, punishment, or vilification. If you believe that, I stand with you. If you believe that all men must do all that they can do to be self-reliant, but some are just never going to make it on their own. And some will need help. Some for life, and some from time to time. I stand with you. If you believe that the government is the last resort to be used when people of faith or community spirit cannot help those people. But those occasions are rare. If you believe that, then stand with me. If you believe that the reason the American lifestyle is unsustainable is because the system is too far away from the people who actually pay for it, then let's stand together. I believe the people are the boss and the government is the employee, and a few of these employees should be fired. I'll stand with you if you believe spending is out of control and heavy across the board cuts must be made, and there are no sacred cows. If you believe the Fed is our biggest problem, and they are now beginning the Weimar option to inflate our money as an exit strategy. The Fed must be stopped and must be disbanded. Stand with me, and I will stand with you. If you believe America must defend herself, but enough is enough. 3 wars? Our boys have fought long and hard, and we're not even fighting to win anymore. They seem to be fighting for another agenda. I don't know if it's social justice or nation building. Call it what you may, but bring them home. Now there are 3 fronts of this war. Bring them home from the other places in the world as well. It's time the rest of the world stand on their own 2 feet because America is in trouble. It is high time that we do what was on the very first coin in America. The very first coin minted in America didn't say e pluribus unum as it does now. At that time, it said, mind your business. That's what we should do, mind our business. But that doesn't mean that we don't respond to the needs of the world, and we don't hit if we've been hit back, if we've been hit first. We should be a friend to all, an enemy to none, unless you strike us. Then we'll become your worst nightmare, but we'll do it quickly, and then we'll leave without building back your nation. If you believe those things, I stand with you. I will stand with you if you understand that Israel is being set up, and we must defend her vocally, morally, and spiritually in her right to defend herself. Israel has a right to survive and thrive. We must say that in an unequivocal voice. I will stand with you and defend your faith, even if your faith resides only in man. You do not have to belong to my faith for me to defend you. Will you defend me? Can we still prove to the world that we understand the words, united we stand and divided we fall? Can we continue to divide ourselves into this camp or that and survive? Unless we unite on principles and values, we will fail and fall in the end. And I will not play a role in the falling of my nation. The parties and the media do not reflect the American people, and they will continue to feast on us if we don't recognize who they are, what they're doing, and then dismiss them. My goal in the coming months is to reach out to as many people, younger people in particular, find a new and diverse audience and ask them to stand with you. It will take great conviction and courage for Americans. Courage to stand, to speak, to not sit down, or, as we have seen in our own past, to not get up from the lunch counter. But it must be done with love, with truth, compassion, solidarity, with those who love freedom and know how it came to be. I have a firm reliance in the protection of divine providence. And I know that the people of America will choose the right path in the end. To really fix our country for our children. Our future will not be easy, but it will be bright.